Qualify the Podcast Season 3. I'm your host, Hassan. With me today, we have Latoya Hurley, Innovating Marketing Group. This is Houston's marketing firm that actually has a really interesting story and a pretty cool connection, quite honestly. So thank you to Chuck Ottawu. Shout out to Chuck Y.O. for making this connection happen. How are you today?
I am amazing. How about yourself?
Fantastic. I hate Houston traffic so much.
But you should be used to it.
You never get used to it. You never get used to it because they keep changing it.
Yes.
How are you accepting of Houston traffic if they keep moving the goal?
Well, and see, that's where you have to become comfortable with it because it's like they keep moving the goal. So 10 is constantly under construction. Everything is constantly under construction. So it's like, okay, we're just used to a state of chaos.
That's very optimistic. I actually thought about this the other day. I didn't post it. I wanted to. You can be optimistic. You can be pessimistic. You can be realistic. Or you can be a pragmatist, which I also am.
Oh, really?
So for me, it's like, no, this is horrible. And knowing that it's horrible, I'm going to work within the context of its nasty nature. So, it's going to be better. No, it's not. No, it's not going to be better. And I want to go home. I don't even want to go where I'm going.
Yes.
I don't even want to be where I'm supposed to be at. I just want to go home. And that might be more so because of the pandemic environment.
Oh, yes.
Because we're not technically used to being outside.
We're not, but we're having to get comfortable. And that's what I tell a lot of entrepreneurs and people in general. While it's uncomfortable, we've got to get used to this uncomfortable space. Otherwise, we cannot weather the storm. And so I 100% can relate. I'm just not following that direction.
Gotcha. Makes sense. I was interested when Chuck sent me the information, just in terms of yourself and your business. I said, well, that's cool because what we do on this platform, ideally what my goal is that I want to make sure that we're educating as well as informing and entertaining. But in culture, education, various careers, impact that you make in certain areas, and in your case, marketing, because I talk about marketing all the time. It's really going to be interesting to have a conversation with a marketeer who owns a marketing firm, not to validate me, but just to talk about the things. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show.
No, I appreciate you having me. I always love coming to share. And I think it's about reaching back once we've gotten to wherever we feel like we've made it.
Sure.
But conversations like this are important. So I definitely appreciate being here.
Okay. Well, let's do an origin story.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, Latoya, originally from Louisiana, came to Houston in 2003. I have been here ever since. Came here very bright-eyed, looking for the American dream.
Traffic ruined that, didn't it?
And you know what? It's funny that you say that because you're very correct. When you stay in New Orleans, there's only one or two major freeways.
I-20.
And so this was like a whole new adventure coming here. You've got 610, you've got 59, you've got I-10. So it was definitely like, oh, okay, I have arrived at the promised land. And
all right. That's one way to put it. Hey, Houston, do better. All right.
Do better.
Okay. Yeah, please proceed.
Arrived here not really knowing what I wanted to do. Both of my parents, one was in sales, the other worked in the medical industry. Very astute, great backgrounds, great educational background, believed in education. I won't say forced, but encouraged me to go to college for nursing.
Okay.
Flunked out horribly. So I always start with this because I think sometimes people believe that you have to start and get your education, and I just don't follow. Well, my life didn't follow that premise.
Fair.
So I come here, find a job at Waste Management, and initially when I start there, I'm a contractor. Have no idea really about what Waste Management does, or that there are even options to have other trash providers. In New Orleans, you've got one. I think it was always Waste Management, and so I never knew that there was something different.
Okay.
So I get to Houston, and there are so many different options in terms of just trash and other things that you guys have amenities and utilities for. Start learning, understanding the business, and they asked me to come on full-time to work in the organization, in the marketing department. Originally, when I started, it was just more working on their contracts, getting all of that information loaded in. From there, I am one of those people that's very curious, very interested, learn the business. And after a year, they like the experience and skill set. I also was extremely young at that time. So when you come in young with bright eyes, you have fresh ideas.
Sure. That's
Or they could look at it another way.
that's how they get you.
Yes.
All right.
And so I start the beginning of my career in the marketing department. I feel like this is what I want to do with my life. Start working my way up the corporate ladder. I end up working there for 5 years. And at year 4, start to want to progress. Mm-hmm. I've been in this position. I want to move around, spread my wings a little bit. So I start exploring my options. And because of my education, I am limited in what I can do. However, the other side of that coin is I was doing a lot of the responsibilities that my counterparts, and I say counterparts because a lot of their tasks, because of my skill set, had been unloaded on me. So I'm doing everything that the marketing managers are doing, but because of my educational background, I don't have the experience that they're looking for in order for them to promote me.
Sure.
Looking at different opportunities, and in 2009, when the economy crashed, I get laid off. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what am I going to do? Mm-hmm. I've done this for the last 5 years. This is all of my career experience. How do I package this up, take it to another company, and be of resource? Don't want to go back into transportation. And I set it in my mind, I want to go into oil and gas. Okay. Start down that path and do some contract work in the oil and gas industry, end up landing at this amazing company that I would later spend 7 years. But coming into that, working in marketing really got me to thinking, let me know this is where my passion is. And so when I get hired in oil and gas, I'm on the operational side of the business. I'm no longer in marketing. Okay. I did a lot of the contract work, a lot of technical work in addition to the marketing, but it fed in quantitative stuff, reports, things of that nature that they could utilize for me as an analyst in oil and gas. But it still took me away from what I want to do. You're crunching numbers, you're playing with spreadsheets. I'm more the interacting with people person. Okay. So it's just a change in pace. Talking to friends, they're asking me for marketing advice. And my brother comes and he said, why don't you start charging for this? And the thought never crossed my mind, ever. I'm a first generation entrepreneur. Okay. My family both of my parents worked in corporate America. Okay. So this was never a thought. Oh, you can go start a business. It's like, okay. Go get the DBA, and then it just blossoms from there. So I will leave you with that cliffhanger, and we'll go through the rest later on.
Okay. I like this. Yeah. So I guess where my curiosity starts with this is that if you start in waste management, not initially in the marketing department, what pulled you to the marketing department? Was it just an opportunity, or was it just something that you kind of always wanted to try your hand at? I mean, how did that work from start to intro?
So while I wasn't in the marketing department, I was doing more data entry. I was working side by side with them. Okay, so I was learning.
You were adjacent.
Exactly. Learning all of the ins and outs and figuring out from behind the scenes how the contracts worked. Sure. Once you understand how the contracts work and you have interpersonal skills, mm-hmm. they all kind of come hand in hand. Exactly.
It matches. Okay. That was something that through my journey through corporate America, it was something that I've kind of always wanted to do. To say that I have done marketing for like in terms of the group for those in-house corporations, I really wanted to be a part of that. Now, I was adjacent, just like that story starts with you. I was there. Actually, imagery and publications at NASA is where it started.
That's amazing.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. You know what's interesting about that? It's a government job, yes, and it's NASA, and that's cool.
Yes.
You're still not NASA enough for NASA space program. Like, you're there, you're in it. But, you go to the space program, mission control is like literally when I'm driving in, it's to the left, and I have to go to the right. And it's like, oh, this is civilian side. One day, guys, it's little tidbits. This show tends to reveal layers about me. I don't really talk about myself like that. I just kind of integrate me into comparable conversations. But I relate to it. And I think that's really awesome that the opportunity itself presented itself because you were adjacent to it, you're in it, clearly very personable. So for that, it just kind of, hey, why don't you come on into the marketing.
Yeah, come on over.
That's pretty cool. Oil and gas marketing. You worked there for 7 years. You
Worked
said
there for 7. Yes.
Okay, we won't name the company. And so then you decided to make the transition to work independently,
Full time.
full time.
So I had begun growing the company while I was there.
Okay.
A couple things here and there, a couple projects here and there through friends, family. And then as you start talking to your CPA, he's like, is this a hobby? Or is this a company?
Yeah.
And if it's a company, then you have to start treating it as if it's a company.
Mm-hmm.
So it made me take it a little bit more seriously,
Yeah.
figure out direction, what I wanted to do, and still didn't ever see or understand what the end goal was.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is not what I went to school for. This is not what I was taught, learned, this is what I'm taught. So start working and there is no end goal. I'm just chunking along. Now we're closing deals and I'm hiring a PR coordinator and I'm bringing different individuals into the organization, but still there is no clear direction. During my time at oil and gas, I did go back to school. So while I didn't start out in the beginning of my career, I go back to school and get my degree in business administration with a concentration in marketing.
Cool.
The good thing about me waiting to go back to school is now I have applied knowledge. So everything that I'm learning in school, I can actually apply it to the business.
Yeah.
I can look back at case studies from when I was at Waste Management and see how the two married and how it was applicable in everything that I was doing. So while I don't recommend that people go this route, I want people to understand also that I got a good bit of student loan debt because I didn't know what I wanted to do in the beginning.
Sure.
So if you don't know, take the time to figure it out. I don't think we have to follow one path, which is go directly to college after you finish high school, but understand what it is that you want to do.
Go
ahead.
Let me pause
Yes.
you real quick. So I'm really glad you said that. I'm we'll call it the second tour college student.
Okay.
Right? So first time I go, following along with what family expectations would be, which is, hey, what are you going to do after high school? Well, there's only two options, really. You know what I mean? So we're either going to go to college or we're going to go to the military. Chose throughout a couple of different attempts, chose the college route, and I'm in art. Fast forward way down line, I learned that an art degree / education is not applicable in what we would consider the real world.
Yes.
I have a nephew. I've explained this to him, and he is ridiculously talented. Gets a lot of contracts, and he's overseas. So he gets a lot of contracts to do, a lot of curated work, also a lot of murals. He's a painter. He's a really good hardcore traditional artist.
Oh, cool.
Having said that, I explained to him, I said, you can't teach talent. You can teach talent technical, but you can't teach talent.
I agree.
That's just not something you can do.
Agreed.
I do believe that the brain waves of a person who thinks about how to improve and to bring forth knowledge about a business into the atmosphere, I think that that's an artist. I know I'm an artist, but I also am a constructor. I'm a builder. I'd like to create things. So when you say, that was babbling, but when you bring it back in to talk about college as a necessity based on what your parents urge you to do or what society urges you to do, I do agree with you that you do need to know what you want, because you're going to be 40,000 in the hole with a band degree, and who needs a bachelor's in playing trumpet?
That is funny. I like that. Who needs a bachelor's in playing the trumpet?
You want to be a band director? And I'm not demeaning the role. I'm just saying that if that was what you wanted to do, then that's absolutely what you should have went to college for. But in the route of you going to college and you realize that that's the only thing you can do, you do need to ask yourself, am I doing the right degree?
Absolutely.
And now you exponentially increase the college cost.
That is very true.
Second point that you made that I really like is that what you have been learning through your career, through your jobs, through those positions that you held, did that make the classes a little bit easier for you?
Absolutely. I felt like I was an overachiever, but I felt like that because this is coming to me so easily.
Yeah.
I am a visual learner, so through my time in corporate, it helped me to understand myself as a person, how I absorb information. And now I'm looking at it, it's not applied, it's not theory. I'm sorry, it's not theory. All of it is visual and applied. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at all of the things that I was doing before, and all of it is coming together and making sense for me.
Sure.
So I'm chunking through these courses, and it's much easier because I've done this before.
Yeah. It's a cheat code.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is going to sound like the right thing to say. It may come out wrong, but I'm just going to say it. If you've gone through life, and you're working and you have a career, when you go back to the collegiate courses, which are effectively introductions and baseline concepts until you get into, part 2, part 3, whatever that may be in the upper level courses, it's still pretty much what the real world requires of you.
Absolutely.
I took like 4 marketing classes, right? Shout out to University of Houston. I took like 4 marketing classes, and in those classes, every one of them says, "Oh, I did this already," because this is grassroots marketing. They just don't call it that.
Exactly.
Honestly, where I had the hardest time was terminology, because I, like you, was flying by the seat of my pants when I started my businesses. So we know what to do. We just don't call it the same thing that the textbook would call it.
Exactly.
But then you look at the definition of it, it's like, oh, I did that last year.
Yeah.
And I also documented this, so I don't really need to write a paper on this anymore. I'll just submit to you the paperwork that I did for myself on my last taxes. So, and it's an A+. So there you go. I like it, though, because it's not as though you're saying that education isn't. Clearly, it's important. Maybe college in itself as a concept of having a degree in marketing isn't as important as understanding what marketing is as a core concept. You can pay for those classes, or you can do it the hard way and go into debt by flunking a business because you don't listen to people. You got options. I'm glad you did the former. So with your company, can we talk a little bit more about the company itself? Like, how many people are in the firm?
So actually in the firm, it's not like we're huge. We are in the process of growing. So we've got about 4 people in the company. Okay. We're adding another 4 this year. I am looking to back out of the business this year. So as you start understanding how your business operates, for all intents and purposes, I am a worker of the company right now. And versus when you are the CEO, because a lot of people have this title in their bio.
Sure.
When you're the CEO, you're not necessarily in the weeds performing the functions. You are more in a leadership providing guidance, versus when you have a role in the company, you're performing tasks. You are, for all intents and purposes, an employee.
Yes.
And right now I'm an employee, and I am attempting to hire more staff, but in the process of this, training people to come in and work as employees is much more difficult versus hiring and contracting out work. So in the beginning, a lot of work was being contracted out. Now, as we're continuing to scale and I have clear direction of where we want to go,
sure,
I'm now hiring, and that is not as simplistic as some people may make it seem. You can have money floating in, but finding a great team, and I know this sounds so cliche, it can be extremely difficult, and especially during a pandemic. There's not a lot of incentive for people to come into an office. I've come to understand that it is imperative in terms of my team that they be physically in the office so that they can train.
Okay.
Exactly. And so that's something that's extremely important to me. So it has made it a challenge in finding staff that wants to physically come into an office during a pandemic.
Yeah, that was going to be the question. Is, the work environment has changed. We've downsized. We've tightened up our belts to understand that we can do. We need to do more with less people, and no one wants to come into an office because it kind of feels like a petri dish sometimes. So now that you're requiring this, because you know what works. I mean, quite honestly, it's your company. I understand by title and job role, it's going to differ. But you do know what works.
Yep.
Because that's your baby. So you kind of grew it at that inception. So difficult, yes. Impossible, no.
No.
But what are the 4 positions that your team currently occupy?
Administrative assistant, graphic designer, and the graphic designer actually does most of our marketing collateral and then digital marketing. Mm-hmm. We are going to add an inside sales, account manager, and account executive. Account manager will then take and project manage all of the things that I'm currently managing. Inside sales will start handling some of the sales functionality from the lead generation work that we do. And then an account executive, that one is probably going to be more on the fourth quarter end of our hiring phase, just because everything is shutting back down. And so going out into the field and securing new business is not something that I foresee them doing if they don't already have a footprint in marketing and have relationships with these companies. So
my brain just went in two different directions. So I got to ask you two things then. One, everything that you just outlined in terms of from a CEO level are the intricacies of your business. Was this the education that you received in school, or did you learn this throughout the actual time and motion of being in the position?
Time and motion being in the position. My education taught me about the marketing side, the budget, the forecasting, which those were functions that I'm doing. Keep in mind, when you work for someone else's company in corporate, they're not teaching you how to be a CEO.
Right.
They're teaching you how to be a great employee. They
For
may be
them.
exactly for them. They may be grooming you to be a leader, but that leadership, they still tell you you have to follow a certain path. So you director, VP, and so on and so forth. So nothing prepared me for this piece of it. I end up getting a financial advisor, and that is where I figure out what is the end game.
Okay.
That was one of the first questions he asked. What is the exit strategy? What is the end game for the company? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never planned for that. I always planned to go out and work. And so even at that time when I hired the PR coordinator, it was like, I just know I need help and I need somebody to offset these tasks. They need to have a similar skill set to me. And so this PR coordinator can facilitate those functions. They've got 2 to 3 years of PR experience, but never in my mind did I say, I want to exit the company at this point.
Yeah.
When I got ready to quit corporate, he made me rewrite the business plan. What you originally thought was going to be the organization and how it looked is now different after you've been in the business for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
So rewrite the business plan, and that's when it comes to me, and I said the company will get 7 years for me. And 7 years in terms of me actually working in the business.
Yeah.
I want to move out, sit more as the CEO, provide leadership, guidance, maybe bring in the bigger accounts, but I can't be inundated into all of the moving parts of the company. It's just not realistic.
Sure.
Long term.
Yeah.
At some point you want to retire. While I do have, or my kids, I do have a family already. My kids are older, so it's not like I have the struggles of and let me not say struggles. It's not like I am looking to now have kids at this late age. If it happens, great, but I've checked that off my bucket list.
Yeah. Okay.
So rewrite the business plan, figure it out. I'm at a conference one day listening to somebody talk, and that's when the light bulb goes off and I really figure out, like, yeah, I want to be out of the company. And then after that, what does that look like? I determined that I want to have a personal brand. So we start building Latoya aside from the company. So securing opportunities for speaking, influencer opportunities started coming funny last year, but it was when I separated myself from the company after attending this conference, and this young lady sold her company, but they wanted the rights to her name also.
Yeah, that happens.
Exactly. And so people don't talk to you about things like that, but it made me think I am a brand aside from the company
That you created, yeah.
Exactly. And so it made me think long term, where do I want to be? What do I want to do after retirement? So you leave the company. Do you want to just sit on your hands and watch the grass grow? What does that look like? And I started planning out that future for myself. And it is in being able to give back, but being able to give back in a very strategic manner on my time, because I think we lose that freedom, whether it's in corporate or you're working for yourself. All of your time is accounted for because you're servicing clients. I want to be able to create the schedule that I want so that I can do things on my own time. And that's where the personal brand came in and separating myself from the company.
Okay. Here's what's admirable about everything you said.
Okay.
If I may summarize, because I'm sure someone's giving you credit already, but let me just say this real quick, just so that we can get this out the way, number one. Your origin story is that you moved here with not the same direction as to what you have right here. but you did establish that through working, this was something that you do enjoy, love. I believe that you love this. That's the reason why you kind of stepped outside of being in a corporate environment doing the job.
Absolutely.
And so from there, even though your education wasn't in it, you still rolled the dice, took the chance, knowing what you knew and not resting on your laurels. But then at the same time, you did re-educate yourself and further educate yourself in what you did create. I think what I admire the most about this, though, just for me in hearing it, is that you don't hesitate to ask for help. Because a lot of people can claim to be CEO, and that's fine, but they're also the person. They're the Swiss Army knife. They're the one-person show. I joke about calling myself a Swiss Army knife. I do that with other people as well, because what I truly believe is that whereas your title and your job role make perfect sense for the ascension of you in this story, I believe that you did the same thing that we all do, which is I need to know everything about what this company is before I start asking for help and getting other people involved in it.
Yep.
For me, I operate as a single point of failure, mainly because I enjoy it. That heat makes me perform better.
I know people like that.
It's not everybody's dance.
Exactly.
It ain't everybody's dance. I like walking on fire. It's okay. Feet are burned, have no fingerprints. It's cool. But for that, if I did need help, I would be asking for it after I understood what the problem of the item was.
Absolutely.
I'm still going to educate myself. Again, I don't think that needs to be in a conventional form. I just think you need to know before you start outsourcing.
Agreed.
Because in the event that anything goes wrong, you would just have to hear the excuse as to why it went wrong. I don't deal in excuses, so I need to know what that was, and then we can worry about how that can never happen again. But I can see in your personality that you're still EST something. So, like, did you take this evaluation? Do you know what you are on that exam? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You don't even have to tell me. I get it. These forward thinkers are always in the same tribe. I'm part of your tribal council. It's okay. This sounds great, but I would also just curious, what exactly does your group handle? Like in marketing, what do you handle? Do you handle businesses? Do you handle personal brands? Like what clients do you take on?
So it's funny, I get that question all the time, and they say, what's your niche? Mm-hmm. Is it sports? Is it, like you said, this business? I don't want to say that we're a jack of all trades. We understand marketing. And once you understand marketing, you can do it in any arena. And so that's where I leave that at. We do handle personal brands, so we do manage sports figures, managing their image. Mm-hmm. So that's more on the PR side. We also do marketing, so we do everything from spas to nonprofits. The nonprofit stuff is so fun, and it really feeds us. But we do a full gamut of marketing and PR services, and it's not specific to one industry.
Okay.
I have explored the company, the organization, to understand what I wanted to do. Did some entertainment. I will say this, we do not do a lot of entertainment or any entertainment in terms of music.
Okay.
And so the entertainment folks that we do work with are more on the sports side, but small business owners and then mid-sized organizations that are looking to expand, create marketing collateral, do PR, crisis management. And because my background is so robust, I have the research experience to go in, research what we need to know, and then pass that down. And I guess that's where the struggle comes in on why I need to hire a team, because while I may be able to do all things, mm-hmm. it's not feasible in the long run as the company continues to grow. Or I may get sick, or I may get married one day and say, bye, guys, I'm out.
I'm out.
Right.
This has been fun.
It's been great.
Mommy's going to Aruba.
Right.
Yeah. Got you.
So
your exit plan, not necessarily the fact of what yours is particularly, but the fact that you had to establish one while in the middle of growing is interesting to me. As I've expressed this, because I've done marketing analysis, I've done business plans for others. Like I had to clearly create one for me, but I believe in this. See, I always express to my friends that this is the difference between a hustle and a business.
Yes.
See, a hustle has an end date because something's going to dry up. Whatever the work is going to dry up. Businesses aren't supposed to have an end date. It's a tragedy when you close your business. if you do it, unpreparedly.
Exactly.
But if you do have a plan and that plan is to sell, then that means you're building the business to be sellable.
Yep.
Which it won't be tragic to anyone but the customers when you sell it. That was my plan all along. Like, Daddy's going to Aruba. Like,
Yes.
that's what I was supposed to do. But the strategy is the strategy. The plan's the plan. So I really, really, really enjoy the fact that you highlighted the fact that you had to determine one of these, because you have to know when you need to check out. You as a person, you as a CEO, and you as a brand.
Absolutely.
Because you can't even branch your brand unless you have room to breathe.
And there you go.
See, for those who don't think that I know what I'm talking about, that's the reason why I have guests. They only validate the thought. This is beautiful. Because if I was wrong, then we could just debate about that. And I think that I'm not right. That's my deal. I'm not right, but I'm not wrong. Like that's how I approach life.
You can be both.
I can be both.
Depending upon whose lens you're looking through.
Yeah. Mine is usually skewed. But that's that EST fill in the blank. So this is from a client structure, not limited to corporate marketing as well as sports marketing, but you do include that as well.
Yes.
Very cool. Very cool. The pivot point about COVID was interesting, but I mean, we're still in it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what it is that we do. Things are going to open, things are going to shut. It's a very trying time, but I'm glad your business is still thriving. I saw that you have some notable clients that you listed in terms of the accolades on your website as well. I don't know if naming names is cool, but if you want to, we can.
So it's funny. I was at a retreat this past weekend, and I don't like to name names. However, what I do like to do is talk about the impact of how we've been able. I think
that's fair.
Yes.
Okay.
How we've been able to help clients. And so we have some amazing case studies and stories of individuals that may have been very notable in their particular industry, and they wanted to move to a different industry because maybe they were retiring from sports.
Sure.
And helping them to make that pivot, figuring out what that sweet spot is, and getting the organization set up for success in whatever they're trying to do, whether it's a launch, writing a book, what your legacy is going to look like after you leave the game of sports. Those are the things that I find to be the most exciting and impactful. That impact that we have on these individuals and them saying, we couldn't have done this without you. Your company was pivotal in us being able to make this transition. One of my clients has opened up a sports facility out in Rose Sharon. We helped him with his initial launch, and that company has evolved from what was a membership organization to now having its own media component and many different facets of the business. And so we're excited when we get to be a part of that. The retreat that we were at was for a client this past weekend, and that client figuring out they had been doing great things, working with a lot of organizations, and we came in and helped them to figure out strategically, yes, you're doing all these great things, but what is the company structure? How do we market these different things? Because right now, everything is tied to you as an individual. And if you ever want to do like what I'm doing, you've got to be able to back out the business. There has to be an infrastructure there, helping her to figure out what that infrastructure is, because I do consulting work also. And now she's got clear vision on where she's going. And that was a part of what she talked about in the retreat, what the path forward is. And just more of a thank you for helping me come to this realization.
Sure.
So those are the things that I like to highlight when people ask me about clients, that impact that we've been able to have.
I think that's more respectful as a business to talk about that, because it does highlight what you do, who you choose, who chooses you in terms of representation. And then you're also developing them as an image. And your image is important.
Absolutely.
Image is almost everything, because it's what you lead with. So I completely understand.
Yeah.
I completely understand. Can you tell people how to reach you?
Absolutely. So now that we have gone through this full rebranding, I always tell people now about the company, how to find Innovative Marketing Group. It is just at innovatingmarketinggroup.com on the internet, on Instagram, innovating_marketing, and everywhere else is Innovating Marketing Group. So whether it's on Facebook, that's where you can find us. If you're looking for inspiration, I do a lot of motivational talking on my personal page, talking about self-care. It's my name everywhere, Latoya Hurley. And so
Okay.
Definitely feel free to follow either or, and we will either give you some self-care tips or give you some marketing and PR tips.
Sure. And, if you need to have some branding, if you need to get better representation for your brand, contact the marketing group.
Yes.
See, that way everybody looks good in the imagery that you need to present for your business, because image is everything.
Absolutely.
You can find me, Qualified the Podcast, on all streaming platforms, including YouTube. Search QLAFD, trademarked, as well as Qualified, the Podcast on Google. Everywhere you want to look, that's where we are. Thank you so much, Latoya, for being a part of the show.
Thank you for having me.
You know where to find us. Houston, we're out.